All right, welcome to the Apex Show, man. So, yeah, we're doing a little walking vlog, and I'm going to talk to you about tall people. See, one of the problems that we got in today's society is that, like, tall people have gotten this perceived value that they're actually worth the fuck. In reality, they really don't do much. Like, they're just tall people. And a lot of tall people take pride in the idea that women like them because they're tall. Like, you hear about the six-pack, 6 feet, 6 figures, 6 inches, blah, blah, blah. But when you really stop and think about, like, what do tall people contribute as a whole of a people, there's really not much to say about it, to be honest with you. Like, and even when you think about it from, like, a survival standpoint, one of the things I like to point out when we talk about the tall people, or the elves is what I call them, is that these elves, from a survival standpoint or survivalist standpoint, there's no benefit biologically to be a tall person. Like, gravity wears on you more. It's easier to see, so it's easier to spot you, so you're more easily identified as a prey. In times of war, you're looked at as a fucking easier target to hit. You never hear about people that can't get into bigger spaces. Like, usually people can't get into small spaces. So if you're a smaller guy, you can get into smaller places. You fit into places better. You're a little bit more compact. It's easier for you to get around. Taller people have a hard time getting around. From a physiological standpoint, it takes longer for blood to get around and circulate. Like, there is no true benefit of being tall besides the point that you are perceivably wanted by women. And here's the thing, women are children. Women telling you that they like tall guys the same thing as a kid telling you I want candy for dinner. Like, what does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. It's irrelevant to any situation. A woman's going to take whatever is the best in her vicinity that she can afford, that a man's going to be able to deal with her. So I laugh at when these tall guys give themselves like this high perceived value as if it means something. The only times being tall actually means something is within the realm of sports. And how many guys that are super tall are actually competitive athletes? I'll wait. The grand majority aren't. If we're going to be honest with you, the grand majority of guys who are tall are actually not even playing professional basketball. Like, we look across the world, the people who are 6'5" and higher, the grand majority of them don't play basketball. They don't play a professional sport. So essentially, they're just a bunch of fucking giants walking around with no fucking purpose. And then you also have to think about this on a bell curve standard. The average man's height, if you take it like from the world's demographic, I believe the average man's height on the planet is about 5'6", 5'7". You might be like, wow, that's shocking. No, not really. That's about right. Because if you take into account like Mexico, Asia, China, a bunch of these other countries, there is not a bunch of fucking just huge people walking around. This is largely an American thing. And I largely think most of that is due to the fact that, like, the growth hormones and all the different type of things that are put into our food, they kind of give people an oversized thing. And so this idea that we have a bunch of tall people who just exist, like, in our planet is largely overestimated. Like, tall people make up a very, very small percentage of the bell curve of the grand majority of people that actually exist. And so actually, from a biological standpoint and statistical standpoint, the evolutionary advantage is for human beings to be between the sizes like 5'5" to about 5'9". That is optimal human range of height. Anything typically above that or below that, you start getting to the outliers of humanity. And usually there's a reason why there's an outlier, because there's no biological imperative for that particular trait to be pushed within the population. There's no benefit to being tall. All it does is cost more resources and makes you an easier target. And so it's laughable when you listen to people like talk about, oh, I'm 6 foot something and girls like me. Well, largely there's another problem with that. As these tall guys start to date, what happens is I kind of call tallness is like the equivalence of being a beautiful woman. It makes you lazy in all the other aspects of what makes a woman great. So if you ever dated a very attractive, beautiful woman, one of the things that you'll come to find out is that she fucking sucks at everything else. She sucks at sex. She sucks at being a companion. She sucks at fucking just being like pleasant to be around. She just sucks generally in all aspects of life. And you're like, damn, man, like, she's so gorgeous, but if she could just be a smidge bit nicer and kinder, oh, I would love this woman. But she can't. You know why? because her benefit of being such a good, beautiful woman is that so many guys are willing to put up with her bullshit that she never has to get better as a human being. And that's what happens to a lot of tall guys in the dating scene. A lot of tall guys, they get killed on the back end of dating. Because even though they're tall and a bunch of women are attracted to them, they're able to attract a lot of chicks. The big problem is that once they really get to know the chick and the chick really starts to see with them, they realize, okay, he's just a really big, tall dummy. Like, he doesn't actually have anything to offer outside being a tall guy. He's just a nice optic to take pictures with. And if you ask a lot of women tell you the truth. If they ever dated a tall guy, they're like, yeah, he was tall, but he was just not, like, cool. He was a dweeb. And I noticed this with a lot of tall guys. I'm an athlete. As an athlete, you kick with a lot of different other athletes. And one of the things I noticed is the basketball players are the biggest dweebs on the fucking, in the sports athletic community. And you know why? Because they think that they're special because they're fucking walking around as tall people. And technically, it does make them special because they do stand out. They are outliers from a physical standpoint. But the problem is, it's not a physical standpoint, or it's not a fucking attribute that you were able to develop and build over time. It's like, dude, you were just born this way. You didn't do anything to gain it. You were merely just, you came out the womb and you were gifted 6'7". You didn't do anything to make yourself 6'7". You just were gifted it. And so it doesn't make any sense why you actually be like a better human being because of it. So they end up being shitty as human beings as a result, because they didn't actually do anything to acquire this height. It's the same thing with a beautiful woman. A beautiful woman never develops character. She never develops all the things that makes a woman fucking nice, like being able to cook, clean, knowing how to feed your ego. She's just like, look at me, I'm fucking hot. Like, even her voice becomes annoying. You know, there's a lot of beautiful women, terrible fucking voice. And so this is the same thing with a lot of tall guys. They never develop man skills because they always relied on just being a good-looking tall guy. And that's another thing. Handsome guys, you'll notice too, a lot of handsome guys tend to be fucking shitty ass niggas too. Because once again, they rely on their handsomeness. Same thing with rich guys. Are trust fund babies. They end up getting fucking rich, they become trust fund kids, and they never develop any fucking qualities that make them worth the fuck, and they become unlikable. And so it's the same principle, and you see these principles, they typically translate themselves to everything else, like especially like in sports. Like the guy who's naturally unbelievably fast, he never learns how to do anything else in sports besides be the fast guy. And so he never learns how to catch better, he never learns how to fucking juke, never develops the intel edges, he just fucking runs past people. But he never actually gets good at the actual game. And so what I'm trying to say is, typically, if you're a short guy, you actually have the advantage in this life, because life forces you to fucking be better. See, if you're a 5'6" guy or 5'5" guy, you can't just rely on anything, because everybody's going to look down upon you like you're not worth the fuck. And so that gives you a benefit. You have drive. You have something that these tall motherfuckers don't have, which is called character development. Because you have to develop yourself into something in order to fucking get something out of this life, because people won't respect you just because you're small. And it's fucking stupid. And as a guy, I'm not a super tall guy. I'm probably about 5'6" to 5'8". I don't know exactly. I stopped keeping count. But as a running back, when I was in college, I would get looked down upon by scouts, because I was shorter in high school. I probably put on maybe like an inch or two when I got into college. I would get looked down upon in college by college recruiters and college coaches because I wasn't fucking 5'10", which was like the hypothetical tall running back that was the size you need to be. And I'm looking like my stats, my film, my grades, everything else is good. What the fuck does me being 2 inches taller have to do with anything? I weigh just as much as any other guy that I got to play against. I'm on par to be just as strong. So what does this make a difference? Well, because you're not 2 inches taller, so blah. And now I'm telling you, this is the stupidity of people. Because we have put this value or this emphasis on height within our world view. And it's largely a Western thing. The same thing like dick size. Guys talking about, I have a 7-inch dick. It's like the average man's dick size is like a 4 inches. I think it's like 4 or 5 inches. So like, it's insane. Oh man, we're going to end up losing this camera because my battery's overheating. But it's just insane when you start to really see like the nonsense of life. So I say out to say, short guys, you're kings. Don't listen to these tall, stupid fucking giraffes.